it to me. I want it because Jim's not here. That the unofficial, but it's unofficial, but it's kind of official, is that Miss Amber Pearson hit month 3 of 3 of AO. So congratulations to you, Amber. I know Jim is super proud of you and probably wishes that he was here on this call to officially announce you.
Thank you for doing that. I wanted to say something and I was like, well, I know it's unofficial, but it's official. And I like called her today and she's like, I don't know how I feel. And I'm like, really? Because I want to cry for you. I'm so excited.
Just the only reason why it's like a big unofficial thing is the founders like to be the ones to announce it. So they just don't like things on social because they want it to wait until the end of the month and stuff. So
everybody acts surprised when they announce it. Okay. You didn't hear it.
Congratulations, Amber.
We're so proud of you, Amber.
Thank you, guys.
Well, I get the privilege of introducing Kelly Bush. This is like, I'm like a fangirl of Kelly. So I'm so pumped to have her. When we were talking like, who should we? I'm like, Kelly, let's have Kelly on. I'm so excited. So Kelly Bush joined in January of 2022 with absolutely no experience. In her first year, she submitted 242 applications for 263,000 APV. She earned the title of top producer and elite producer, both titles amazing. In 2023, her master agency did over 2.5 million in sales. She finished the year the fastest agent to the top contract level in the history of Symmetry. You guys, in all the history of Symmetry, incredible. Joe and I actually got to see all that on stage at conference. That was like one of our first things. And I was like, I gotta meet this girl. And then just over 2 years, she has personally submitted 419 apps for 508,000 APV. She's a rare leader that perfectly balances building with production. And she's here with us tonight to talk about closing the deal when you're in the appointment. So Kelly, we're just, I mean, Joe and I are so pumped to have you on. We can't even tell you. I know, when I first met you, it was at conference. It was right outside the ladies' room because that's where all the good conversation happens. And I'm like, I just remember you like kind of grabbed me and you were like, just trust while you're here, trust that you're here for a reason and that you can do this and you need to let everything else go. And you just need to like dive in. And I was like, and you guys, she even opened up her phone and she's like, do you want to see some deposits? And I'm like, heck yeah, I do. And she started showing me things and I'm like really like just kind of took me under wing and I felt it made me feel so good. And I remember one thing that stuck with me because we're starting to see that a little bit. She said that your husband gets so excited about the little deposits because that means that's work that you weren't doing, but your agents were, you could see that your agents were winning. And that was like so special to see. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, Jen, you just took all of my thing I was going to tell about Kelly.
Oh my gosh, babe, we should have talked about it before the call.
Kelly, you have no idea how much you mean to us. I mean, you grabbing Jill at conference. I mean, we were like in Symmetry for like 2.5 weeks by the time we went to conference. And you grabbed her and told her to believe. And she come in, sat down next to me, goes, Kelly Bush just grabbed me out there. And I was like, yep. And then you and Christina grabbed her and told us many things. And I'm so glad you guys just took us under your wings. We appreciate it more than you believe.
Well, I am very grateful for Symmetry here. Grateful for you guys to have me on this call. And yeah, I stand by it. If you are new here and your toe is in the water, man, you're going to regret that from a year from now. Do not have that toe in that water. You jump in and you scare all those sharks away. That's the only way to do this thing.
So Kelly, real quick, walk us through your story. What brought you to Symmetry?
Yeah. So if you guys are new here and you don't know me, my name is Kelly Bush. I am technically now direct to Symmetry by way of Mr. Jim Larson. And so I came here in January of 2022. And before I came here, I was an ICU nurse for 10 years, and I'm also a military spouse. I stopped nursing when we were on like move number 7, and I was pregnant with our second baby girl, and I couldn't work shifts anymore because my husband was always gone. He's in the Navy, and if you know anyone in the Navy, they are just never home. I think the year before last, he was gone out of 352 days. He was gone like 275 of those days. And that like wasn't even deployment. That's just like, oh, you're going to go out for training and come back eventually. So when I came here, I was at a very different place mentally than I am right now. I was really struggling with being a stay-at-home mom. I was not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. That was not something that I ever thought was in the plans for me. But it's also not something I ever thought that I would have absolutely despised either. So that really caught me off guard. But I was in a really mentally hard place of every day feeling like Groundhog Day, just same stuff, different day. I was a mom of 2, pregnant with a 3rd, and a husband that was never home. And I was actually trying to justify working nursing shifts and paying somebody to come take care of my kids so I could go work a nursing shift, which to pay someone to come work a 14-hour shift at my house to take care of 2 kids and then a baby on the way, just so I could go be a nurse, basically working for free, was an even tougher spot for my mental health. That like, I wanted to be away from my house so bad that I was willing to go work for free, basically just to get out of my house. And that didn't make me feel very good either. Like, talk about mom guilt. Like that's like the worst thing to be like, I want out of the house so bad that just for free, I'm just going to go work really hard for 12-hour shifts. And it was just a really hard place to be, because then like every day you're waking up and it's Groundhog Day, and you're also like, well, I have the mom guilt because I just want to get out of this house. And it was just rough. And then it was actually Christina Watts. I was like, hey, my friend Jamie works from home and she does this thing with insurance and you should call her. And then I was told. I didn't even get through like 5 minutes of the phone with Jamie. And she's like, well, you have to watch this corporate overview. I was like, no, I don't need to watch this corporate overview. Like, just, you work from home, you make money. I'm sold. Just what do I do next? And then it happened during Christmas. So it took me probably 2 weeks longer than I would have liked it to take me. But January 15th of 2022, I got my Appt credentials and just hit the ground running ever since.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm like thinking about what excuses I can come up with. I mean, you've got 2 little ones, you're pregnant, your husband is gone, and yet you're still doing all of this. So, put a 1 in the chat if you're kind of like, hey, my excuses are not going to work anymore after listening to Kelly, because I need to put a bunch of 1s. So Jim was with you at the beginning, and he would say from the outside looking in, it didn't seem like you had a learning curve at all. Like, you just got it right away. I'm sure that's probably not true from your perspective, but can you walk us through those early days and what that learning curve looked like for you? We've got so many new agents on here.
Yeah, my early days, while Jim may have thought that it looked easy as an outsider, it was not easy. It was very hard because I felt the only thing I can equate it to was like red rage. Like, I was very annoyed that I didn't know how to do all the things, right? Like, I came from being an ICU nurse. I'd done it for 10 years. And by the end of 10 years, like, you just know things because you know things, right? Like, it's not like, of course you give this medicine. Like, that's just what we do. Like, you don't even think twice about it, or your fingers are just doing things because they're so used to it. So to come somewhere and not know anything was just frustrating. It was super uncomfortable. And especially when you have a competitive nature like I do, like, I wasn't okay with not knowing how to do things or where to go. I remember doing my first dial session. I booked like 4 appointments on my dial sessions. Jamie was in Cabo, and I was like, I got these appointments. I don't know what to do with them. Like, how do I know that like I got blood pressure? What do you mean? Like, you just go. I remember Jamie sending me a text. She's like, you'll figure it out. What do you think I'll figure it out? Where do I go? I don't understand. I wasn't able to connect the dots. And I mean, I feel like I can talk to you guys like I walked in the snow barefoot uphill both ways, because the resources that are in place for you guys today were not there 2 years ago. And so the only thing I had available to me were the agent guides. That's all I had. Agent guides and calling the insurance carriers. SFG either didn't exist then, or I just didn't know about it. And Jamie for sure didn't know about it. So FSG quotes didn't exist for the first little bit of my journey. And all I knew was agent guides and to call the carrier. I didn't even know what product was what product. I didn't know anything. Like there was no streamlined thing to do anything. Like it was very hard. It was not easy. But I think one of the things that made me make it look easy is the mental game that I would see these leaderboards, just like you guys just saw. And I was like, there is no difference between me and these other people except the work ethic, because they're coming here, they're all buying leads. So it's not like they just magically have a network that they're just selling these people to, and they're just magically lucky. They're just blessed with the friends and families that they know, or the prior businesses that they've done, and they have this network. I was like, we are on a very level playing field, and there is no difference why I can't do exactly what they're doing the exact same. Everything that they're doing, I can learn and figure out, but I just have to learn and figure it out. So as a mom of 2, who back then I didn't have a nanny and I didn't have a husband that was home, you have to figure out how you can figure this thing out. But also the only way to learn was to get your feet moving and to dial people, because you don't know what you don't know until you're forced to figure it out. And then I spent my nights every night reading product guides. That was my bedtime stories until I figured it out, because there was no choice, because I couldn't do it during the day, because I need any available time during the day. I needed it to dial leads. And then if I wasn't dialing leads, and that meant I have my kids. And so then the only thing I had time was after the kids went to bed. And so I was, big dork that read product guides. And then a few months in, I think it was month number 3, maybe, I discovered SFG quotes, and it was a game changer.
It's like the Cliff Notes. All of a sudden someone handed you the Cliff Notes, like, here,
Yeah, this is what I've been missing this whole time, because virtual mentor is changing right now, but the virtual mentor back then was not the same thing. And you put in information and things would pop up, and I'm like, but how do I know how do I know that that's where you would go, or that's the product, or what I would do? And so it was a very red rage season for me, because I wanted to be really good at it. And I knew the only thing standing in my way was time and work ethic. And so I had to be patient with the time, and then I had to just kill it with the work ethic, because I knew that's what would make me win. If my work ethic prevailed, everything else.
That's awesome. And yes, the resources have changed drastically since we've been here.
Yeah, they really have.
Like it's Symmetry just does wonderful to helping all of us, which is a whole nother story. So obviously, 242 applications your first year. You obviously learned how to talk to people on the phone. What were 3 things that did not come naturally to you that you had to figure out and had to learn really fast?
All of it. All of it. Nothing came natural to me. I would say I was a very cute quoter for a long time, and I still feel like I'm a cute quoter sometimes. And that was probably the biggest thing I had to overcome. I had a really hard time understanding mortgage protection. It was a huge hurdle for me. And then it was an even huger hurdle to understand critical period. And again, the resources that you guys have of like, this is the perfect call for you to listen to critical period, that did not exist when I started. So figuring out critical period just blew my mind. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Even mortgage protection was really hard for me to wrap my head around. And then how to run the appointment. There was no examples. No one had shown anything. All I had was that best script to go off of, and that was it. So I think for a very long time, I was a very cute quoter. So again, I spent my time, if I was doing laundry or walks with the kids or cleaning the house or cooking dinner. I don't cook dinner, ordering dinner. I had headphones on and I was listening to podcasts. The Insurance Academy, I used to listen to them all the time to pick up language, any videos or sales scripts I could get my hands on, just anything that I could do to further my knowledge. Because again, I knew that there was no reason why I couldn't do this. Everyone else was doing, and there was no difference between them and me.
So what were some of the things that kind of got you over that hurdle of being like, okay, I'm going to close this person? I mean, what really, like, can you kind of equate it to anything that, like, and maybe even talk kind of like what a cute quoter is? Because we've got so many new agents on here that maybe they're in the cute quoting and they don't even know that they're a cute quoter.
Oh, yeah. You don't know that you're a cute quoter, but most of you are probably really cute quoters. And so a really cute quoter is, you do your first style session, you get your information, you know where you're going to go, you call them for the appointment, and you're like, hey, Anna, it's Kelly. So how are you? You're good. Okay, well, I have your options for you to cover that mortgage. So we can cover that whole mortgage for blah, 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 blah. And like, you're given those options, not even options, because when you're really new, you're just going to say quotes. You're giving those quotes within under 5 minutes of the conversation. And no matter what, I'd say maybe you hit somebody that just catches them right and you hit some low hanging fruit, but almost every time you're going to get I need to think about it. Or, okay, thanks. And I guess I'll just, I need to think about it. Because all you're doing is you're just giving them some cute quotes. You're just there with a smile on your face, just telling them that, like, here's your options. So it took me a really long time. And I think Todd from Razor Ridge probably taught me the most on posture and digging into that need. It took me a really long time to develop the need to figure out what they actually wanted and wrapping my head around what critical period was and what I was trying to do, right? I'm trying to protect their mortgage, but I need to figure out, how do they want their mortgage protected? Right. And I'm just saying mortgage protection because if you're new, that's what we start with. If you're medium, like, you should be going from mortgage protection to probably mortgage protection lighthouse leads. General life leads to me are typically a harder beast to handle when you have no background, just in my opinion. So for mortgage protection, once I figured out that I needed to address what they were actually looking for, and that came from asking more questions to figure out what I needed to actually do for them. And once I figured that out, then to me, it was like unlocked potential. And anytime I heard a really good question, I had a sheet of paper and I would have all of these questions. So that way, when I was dialing or running appointments and I needed to remember how to ask a question, I'd look up my sheet of paper and be like, oh, I can ask this one. I can ask this next question. But so many times when you're new, that you are so worried about taking the client's time that you rush through what you're doing. You hear a tone in their voice and you feel like you're inconveniencing them. So you're going to rush through and just give them the options instead of sitting there and holding your posture and know that you're not inconveniencing them if they truly want the coverage. And it would be an inconvenience to them if you're not finding out if they actually need this coverage, right? If you're trying to sell them something that they don't actually need, then that's the true inconvenience. Then you're just eating up 5 minutes of their time for nothing instead of diving in it to what they actually need. And so that was probably one of the biggest things for me to overcome, was asking questions. Very
And how
hard.
did you get good at that? Like, is that just kind of going from the trainings and kind of like keeping your list? But how did you know? Did you have like a certain, I'm going to dig in because I'm like, I want to know this stuff, but like, did you have a certain set of questions that you were like, I'm going to make sure I get these from my clients when I'm on the phone with them? Or was it just kind of more case by case?
It's something that's evolved to me in I would say every training I've ever listened to or podcast. It's like what Joe said on the call, like there are little nuggets that you take away. You're like, oh, I need to ask that. And it's more so that you want to be, same with on that initial call, where you want to be that nosy neighbor of knowing all the things, right? You want to know the meds, when it happened, you want to be that nosy neighbor. Well, the same thing transpires on the appointment is you want to be the nosy neighbor. You want to pretend like it's your mom and dad and you're like, what's the plan? What are we doing? So Jill, what do you have in place right now? What happens if something happens to you? Who pays for the mortgage? Do you guys both pay? Is it 50-50? Do you work? Does Joe work? Okay, if Joe passed away, would you be able to afford the mortgage if something were to happen to him? What do you have in place right now? Is there anything? What would you do if Joe passed away? Are there kids in the house? What age are your kids? Is it, like if you have, I would ask the kids, like, what ages are they? So are we just concerned about making sure we're in this house until we're in college? Because then you don't even need to write a 30-year term on them, right? Like they may have a 10-year-old and you're like, I just need to cover this mortgage for 10 years. And so figuring out, do they need this and what they actually need it for, just like opened up my world.
So good. Those were such good questions. I love
Congratulations.
how like you were my friend, like you were asking like a friend too, and no judgment, no nothing. It's just like, what is the plan? Like, I mean, that's just so good. Thank you for that. I wanted to
And
like
literally
dig in.
that question right there, just by itself, what is the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
stops people in their tracks probably.
yeah, and a lot of times too, and I think that's with like I used to despise critical period until I figured it out, because it's really hard, because you get these 70-year-old people that want their whole mortgage covered. And so trying to get them to take from their full mortgage covered down to like, we only really need 6 months of your mortgage covered, is a hard thing to do when you're new and you're uncomfortable and you're like, I'm drenched in sweat. They answered the phone. I just like, I have these options. I just want to tell them that these are their options. They're going to be mad. It's not their full mortgage. And instead of figuring out where their need is, especially with older people, let's say they're single. So let's say, Jill, it's for you, is like, who's going to take care of your estate if something happens to you?
My husband.
Well,
Yeah,
let's say
but if
you're
you're
single.
single.
Oh, I'm single. Oh, well, that would be left to my kids.
To your kids. Okay. Do they live in the area?
They do now. Yeah.
They do.
But
Okay.
how old am I, Kelly? I didn't hear.
You're old. You're like
I'm
7.
old.
You're
Okay.
old.
No, they're all grown. There's 5 of them. They're living with their families, all of that good stuff.
Okay. So, what would be the plan for your house? Would they list it for sale? Do they want the house? Are they going to come live there?
Gosh, I don't really know, because they all kind of have their own house. So they probably would have to list it for sale, but it's kind of hard to sell things around here. We live in the mountains, and I'm not really sure what they would do.
Yeah. Now, could they afford your mortgage while they listed it for sale?
Well, it's not too much. So probably if they all kind of came together to pay for it, but they've got their own kids, they've got their own lives. I just would hate for them to have to do that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be, but yeah, I understand that. Now, if they could afford, to scrape together and pay for the mortgage, but like how many months do you think it would take them to like clean up your estate and list it for sale? Like, are we talking we got curtains from the 1950s, or is your house pretty T-top?
My house is decorated pretty well, but there is a couple things because, you know, I'm single. And so there's definitely some things that they need to come in and do, fix the grout, do some things. So I would probably say like, I don't know, building it's hard to get people in here, maybe 3 to 6 months to get everything ready to truly sell. And then it's going to sit on the market for a while because it's a really big house.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing a lot of the work for me, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm a really good client.
I always get the old guy who goes, I don't know, that's their problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you will get those guys too. And you're like, and then that's where you just have to meet them where they're at. Like, you're right. That is totally their problem. But do you want it just to make it easier for them? Like we could cover part of your month, a couple months of your mortgage. Because you know what, Joe, I would hate for them to lose the equity of the house because it is their problem and they can't afford that mortgage. And then all of your money that you worked really hard for, Joe, it's gone. All that equity is gone.
So good.
If
Kelly
that's
just
okay
makes
with
me
you,
feel like a fool.
then Joe, if that's fine with you, then like let's have at it. But if you like the money that you've worked really hard for and you want to protect that equity, like let's have the conversation.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
All right, so put a 2 in the chat if you're a cute quoter.
Quoter. Yeah.
And I saw a question saying the think about it, right? You're gonna get think about it. It's natural to get think about it, but most oftentimes a think about it is because you haven't developed the need for it, right? You haven't dug deep enough for them to be like, shit, I need this. Like,
Yeah.
I am up a creek. If Joe passes away, like, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't even know what we're gonna do. So most oftentimes I think about it are you haven't dug deep enough to if they actually need this coverage.
Yep. So what's the plan? I love that.
And then two, I always find that clear is kind. And so asking at the end when they say I need to think about it, I'd be like, Joe, I totally understand. Now, when clients tell me they need to think about it, it's normally a couple of reasons why. One, you just don't like me. You just don't want to work with me. Two, I mean, I'll say it. Two, we haven't, you don't actually know if you need this or not. Or three, that it's a price issue. Now, is it one of those things? And odds are is it's normally a price issue, right? Either they haven't figured out the need for it or a price issue, or for you truly need to run it by your spouse.
Or they don't like you.
Or they don't like you. Yeah.
I love that. That's good. I just wrote those down because when someone says you don't like me, kind of, I mean, it would just kind of make you chuckle, but it also like it opens them up to be like, oh, of course I like you. This is really what the issue is, right?
Yeah. Humanize yourself, that you're not there for the sale, that you're there to truly help them and be their friend, and it will disarm them and get them because you want to know what the true objection is.
Yeah.
What is it if it's a price issue, let's talk it out. Let's figure out what the price issue is, because maybe we don't need that 30 years of mortgage covered. Maybe we don't need 20. Maybe we only need 10 years of that mortgage covered. Because sometimes you can think about a critical period, even for a term young people, right? Just like I said, if they have kids that are 10 and they just want to make sure that the kids stay in the house, then like maybe you only need to do a 10-year term. Or maybe you have someone that's older, like in their 50s or 60s, and they're like, I need like a year in the house just to like get my feet going, and you calculate those payments, and it's a term policy, not even a final expense. It's just like, let's cover a year's worth of payments for a year or two in a 10, 20 or 30-year term, but just enough, that's where that 25,000 or 50,000 terms come from, because it's just enough that they have that, like, okay, if something happens to Joe, I got 2 years to figure it out. And I'm not pressed up against the wall.
So good. You guys put a 3 in the chat if you're learning so much. I'm like loving this. Okay. So one of the other things that I know you're like a master at, you can take one lead and write multiple policies from. how do you do that? Like, what's your strategy to, making sure you're writing a policy on the spouse, maybe an accidental, and like, talk us through that, just, quickly, kind of how you do that with multiple policies.
Yeah. So if I'm doing just at baseline, if I'm doing accidental, I will rarely add it into a policy. Because if money gets tight, I don't want them to cancel the whole thing, right? But like if they can cancel the accidental and that saves them $50 a month, then maybe they'll cancel that first and they're going to leave their bigger payment there. Or maybe they want to keep their accidental, but it gives them that freedom where it's not all tied to one instead of it all being in one. So like I always prefer to separate my accidental policies.
That's
And
really
That's
good.
a huge tip.
sometimes you have to read your client too, right? Which is all a part of this game. You'll know the feeling of like, I'm just gonna add it as a writer. This is just like, we're just gonna do it. But a lot of times you can write a separate policy. But what I like to do is cover the people that you're on the phone with now, whoever the concern is now, finish it, seal the deal. They're happy if they're approved, and then you talk about the next person. And you can ask about that on the initial appointment too, of like, who is this who do we need to protect? Who do we need to cover? Like who filled out this form? Like, did you fill it out for you, Joe? Did you fill it out for Jill? Like, who are we looking to protect? And then like, once we finished you, then we go to the next one. Because the problem is when you give them all of these options, man, you're going to get to think about it every time.
Oh.
Every time. So I never like to talk about multiple people all at one time. I like to take it one at a time and then go to the next person.
That's such a good tip. I'm probably at times overwhelming because you'll get the husband and wife on the phone, and so you just want to get them both covered, and that's really huge tip for sure.
And sometimes, I mean, again, play it to what it is, right? And that's where you ask the question. Now, Jill and Joe, do you both work?
Yes.
Do you both pay for the mortgage? Is it 50-50?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, just say whatever you want to say. Okay, so you guys have like a $500,000 mortgage, correct?
I
Yep.
wish.
And you both pay 50-50? 50-50? Okay. So what that we don't even need to cover the 500,000, right? Because if something happens to you, we only need to make up Joe's half, which is 250,000. And what I also heard is that you just wanted to make sure that those kids were out of school, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, out of college.
So
for sure.
what we could do, Jill, is we could protect or call it, 10 years, 15. So what we could do is we could protect Joe for his whole half of the mortgage, the 250,000 for 10 years. We make sure those kids are out of school, out of college, and that's going to run you $75 a month. And then
We can do
don't
that.
say anything at all. Nothing. A lot of times you want to go into, you would probably go like, or we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this. And now they're like, I don't know. So instead present one, sit on your hands for as long as you can tolerate it. Sometimes I can tolerate it longer than other times I can tolerate it for. And then now, Jill, I'm here for you. Let's talk it out. Was that more than you were thinking? Less than you were thinking? What are we thinking right now?
I think that sounds like a good plan.
And then they'll say something. They'll be like, that's okay. Yeah. Or you'll have people be like, well, what happens after 10 years? Like, sure. We can do 15 years if you want to. Now the price is going to go up and we want to make sure that we find something that's comfortable with your budget. So let's try 15 years. I always quote page pulled up ways, because this is what you need to do, because you're having the conversation. You're finding the need for what your client wants. So always have your quote pulled up. Okay, so if we did 15 years, that would bring you to $92 a month. Now, is that still something that's in your budget? And then,
that's-
you'd say yes or no. And then you can say like, now we could go up, but like, I want to make sure that this monthly bill is comfortable for you. And honestly, this gets your kids through the college that you're talking about. So now we've gone from needing a $500,000 mortgage to we only need 250,000 to we only years of that $500,000 mortgage covered.
That is so good.
And that addressed your needs perfectly.
Is it our internet or whose internet's stopping? Can someone tell us? It could be ours because it's snowing like crazy outside.
Yeah. I
Is it
didn't know.
me?
It's Kelly's. Kelly's
Oh, it's
like,
Kelly's.
yeah, it's Kelly's.
You're a little, well, she's kind of, you're a little bit frozen, Kelly. We
I
can, we
I
can
can hear
hear
ya.
you. You're just frozen in the same facial expression.
I hope it was a good facial expression.
You're kind of yelling at us. It's okay.
It's very good. It's, of course it's good. Now we got you.
Okay.
So,
It could have been ours because it's snowing so hard. So
yeah, and we have all of our like teenagers home, so they just walked in the door and internet just goes away. So Kelly, talk about, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Talk about like when you started to bring other agents in and how you balanced bringing agents in and also still producing, because I know when we came in, like you had a really huge agency, but you were you were hitting 130 and like, it was crazy. And I'm like, how is she producing? Like, now that we're in our AO run, I'm like, how are you doing it all? That's
Yeah.
a lot.
It's a ton. And I am just such a firm believer of leading from the front, because for me, it mattered, right? It mattered for me to see Jamie, that she was doing the same thing, that she was writing 8 to 10K. And so for me, I was like, well, if she's doing it again.
Well, I think we lost her for good there.
Oh no, am I still frozen?
Oh,
Nope, you're good now. We got you.
Grief. What is happening? I want to switch to my hotspot, but that makes me nervous. So it was very important to me to lead from the front. And also, what can you control? I can control me. That's all you can control. You can't control anybody else. You can't control when they're going to write. You can't control when they're going to dial. You can't control their APV. You can't control what anyone does except for what you do. And so I knew at the end of the month that I always wanted to be happy with what I did, because then I can't be discouraged of how the month turned out.
whatever.
Yep,
We understand. We know what you're after there.
Because then I couldn't be upset, right? Because no one is going to work the way that you want them to work, ever. No one's going to work the way you want them to work. And so having that in my head made it so I found time to produce. And one of the biggest ways I found time to produce was protecting my time. And I learned that very quickly of, I'm not going to get on the phone with my agents often. I'm not going to get on and that's where you guys now you guys see all the Loom videos, right? There's so many Loom videos. I'm not going to get on the phone to walk you through an opt entry that takes 45 minutes of my time that I can now send a text to you instead. I'm not going to get on the phone to walk you through an Advantage Plus 2 when I can just send you a video instead. Because when I noticed when I was walking my agents through things, they weren't actually retaining any of the information either. It was just a monkey see, monkey do. I don't know. I clicked this box because that's what they said on the phone. And then the next time you go to write it, you're like, I don't remember anything. Where then you have that video too, that you can always keep going back to again and again and again. So I was a big proponent to protecting my time and making sure I wasn't just twiddling the day away. Like before you know it, it helped.
We gotta use those more.
We got to do that more. Yeah, that's a good tip, Kelly. When did you start bringing in other agents? When did you have the confidence to bring in other agents?
I came here and I told Jamie, I was like, I don't want to recruit. I just want to go prove to people that I can do this on my own. And then probably about 3 months in, I was like, I'm just going to go public. was like, this is silly. I'm going to stop being a secret agent. And so I got louder on social media, and the more I produced, the louder I was able to get, because I was super proud of what I was doing. That's also why I like producing, because people are watching and they see your name. And so no matter what, people are always watching. So that instilled me to produce even more, because then I wanted to recruit and I wanted to build. So it went hand in hand together. And so I was a very warm market recruiter to start with. And then now I'm starting to mix in a little bit of cold, just because I want to keep on going.
Yeah. That's so good.
But I'm also super competitive. And so Jim was loud and proud. And so I wasn't gonna let people go join Jim's base when they could come join my base.
I get it.
Like,
So Jill, we're running short. 6 or 7. Which number? What question do we have? Because they're both great, but like, I don't know.
7.
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever you want.
I don't know. I think they're kind of both, and I think Kelly can knock them out both in one thing.
okay.
So there's, in our opinions and what we come up with, there's a couple things. Locking down the appointment. I mean, how do we lock down the appointment? And then when it comes to your new agents, what do you see they're doing wrong the most in preventing them from making the sales? I mean, you kind of went through that.
Okay.
But
let me see if I can nail this down in 3 minutes. Most oftentimes, I think newer agents are losing the sales in desperation. You're not doing enough to fill your week enough that you're attached to the outcomes on everything. That one app that you submit, then you're attached to it, and you're going to spend every day checking on it, looking at it, seeing if there's something for you to do, instead of filling your week so high of appointments that it doesn't matter if that appointment doesn't show. Right. And so I think, and then too, when you're on the phone running an appointment and you have that desperation of like, I need the sale, I need it, then you're not able to just relax and really dig into what your client needs or wants, if anything. And so I think you lose a lot in the desperation. And then as far as a tie down and getting people to show up, there's nothing that's standing in between your way except work ethic and time. So some people are going to be better at the tie down than you are. And so they're going to be able to set less appointments because they just naturally have that. But over time, you're going to figure out that language that works for you to get people to show up. But there's magic in the numbers. And you guys are on Jim's base. We all know he likes those numbers. So track your numbers. And you want to sit with 10 people a week. And so for some of you, that's going to take setting 30 appointments. It's going to take setting 20 appointments for those 10 people to show up. But if you sit with 10 people a week consistently, week over week, that's where the magic will start to happen. And then also setting that appointment and having the posture that your time is valuable is super important. Don't be desperate of like, oh, they said yes to appointment Monday, 6, sure, call you then, bye, hang up. And you're like, it wasn't even really an appointment. They just said to call you back. that if you call them back at 6, that would be okay. And then you latched onto that. And you're like, it was an appointment. I have an appointment. I can go claim an appointment on my accountability group. I have an appointment. It wasn't even really an appointment. It was a callback. So taking the time and ownership that your time is super valuable and you don't want to waste time. If those people aren't serious about wanting this coverage, don't waste your time. So sit there, take your time, and have the proper tie down. And Will Van Vleck has my favorite tie down of, Jill, are you a paper girl or are you a phone girl for your calendar?
I'm a phone girl, but
Phone girl?
I kind of have both. I just this month got my writing one too.
I get it. But you're a phone girl first. Okay. So do me a favor and take out your phone real quick and go ahead and put me in for Monday at 6 o'clock. Can you do that for me?
I'm going to do that right now.
Perfect. Now, Jill, I typically cover about 10 to 15 families a week. And I just want to make sure that that this is important to you and nothing's going to stand in the way for 6 o'clock on Monday with you. Is that correct?
Yes, 6 o'clock on Monday is what I'm putting it down for.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that sounds great. I will see you Monday at 6. And then I also send a confirmation text. And I send a text the day. Well, to put it in a switchboard, let switchboard do your work for you. But now that we have that, but take the time. Your time's valuable. Don't be grasping for these appointments that you just know aren't going to show because you didn't take the time you rushed through it. They didn't give you their information. If they won't even give you your height and weight, you think they're going to give you your social? So instead, spend your time dialing more clients to then set more appointments so that way your funnel is so full that those no-shows don't matter.
I like what you said too about letting some of those people go. Like, it's like that false hope. Like you think your funnel's so full and it's full of false hope. I mean,
Yeah.
it just really is like, they're never going to write. And yeah, get rid of them.
Just like you have those clients that you call every time and they're like, oh, I forgot, call me back. Oh, I forgot, call me back. Oh, I forgot, call me back. Like, that's just wasting your time. You're just spinning your wheels instead of calling other clients that actually want this coverage.
Yep.
Save those people for a rainy day. You're running for AO and you're, trying to last day of the month, find some low hanging fruit. But a lot of people will hold on to it. Like, I know I have this app. I know I have this app. I know I have this. And it never, ever comes through.
Yep. Guilty. So thank you. We took your full hour. So thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything else I don't want to cut you off though. Is there anything else you want to say, Kelly?
I don't think so. I think you guys this business is just amazing. And most oftentimes it's just you standing in your way. And I can say that because I've stood in my own way too for certain things, right? It's not fun to be uncomfortable. It's not fun to not be good at something. But the only thing that's gonna for you to get better is just to go and do it. Massively go and do it. Jump in the water, scare the sharks away, and just do it.
I love it. You guys, everybody throw a word in the chat of something that you gained from Kelly tonight. Just build her up. Thank you so much for taking the time, especially when those sweet girls are in bed and you could be relaxing. Thanks for spending it with us.
I don't
really appreciate it.
I gotta go read about annuities,
Yeah, which carrier are you studying tonight?
Yeah, I gotta go read what's my annuities. They go to bed and that's when my income producing stuff that I can't do during the day happens.
That's awesome. Thank you
so much, Kelly.
You're welcome. You guys have an awesome night.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Bye.